Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. All right, we've got a lot to talk about with Heritage Foundation Chief Economist and Trump Economic Advisor Steve Moore. Some of it is going to be unpleasant, Amy.
Uh-oh.
I'm just warning you.
It's going to get ugly around here?
Yeah, so we may have to put earmuffs on. Steve Moore, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hi, guys. I'm bracing myself.
All right, Steve, let's get to this. We got some Obamacare stuff to talk about, but I want to hold that for a moment. I found a Trump nominee for cabinet secretary that I would vote against at present. And
Wow.
And his name is Wilbur Ross. And Tim Carney did some good investigative work over at Washington Examiner and found some things that Wilbur Ross has said over the years about industrial policy, praising Chinese Communist 5-year plans, in addition to criticizing Obama for being too laissez-faire. Explain to me why a protectionist profiteer like Wilbur Ross is going to be a good Commerce Secretary.
Well, look, I'm not going to defend some of those things that Wilbur Ross has written or said, but I will say this. I when I was on the campaign trail for Trump, I got to know Wilbur Ross and really got to respect him. And he is one hell of a smart guy. He is an extremely successful businessman. And one of the things you're seeing in this administration is the infusion of people with business experience at places like the Labor Department and the Commerce Department and so on. I think that's a good thing. I do not believe in industrial policy. Dan and Amy, you guys have known me for a long time. So,
right.
And I don't believe in trade protectionism, but I think he will help revive American business in large part by just getting regulations and taxes out of the way so the American companies can prosper.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, just with respect to Ross, just staying on him for a minute, I mean, I understand, hey, these are the rules of the game. This is the way it's set up. Can I interrupt you for just 1 second? Okay.
Just one second. We don't need a Commerce Department.
Well, I agree. I agree, but we got one.
We need a Commerce Department. It's what it has become, and I've written on this for 25 years.
Yeah, I know.
It's become a Department of Corporate Welfare. It's where they give out all these subsidies to this industry and that industry. And, I remember when I worked for Newt Gingrich in 1995, we tried to get rid of the Commerce Department, but of course Washington wouldn't let us do it.
I'm in complete agreement on that, and I know that's been a longstanding position you've held, so we're in complete agreement on that. But the problem is, as long as these departments exist, that shouldn't, including Department of Education, I like to see people that are structural reformers, visionaries like Betsy DeVos, and not like Wilbur Ross.
That's exactly right. But if you want to talk about structural reformers, how about the Department of Education, where we have someone who wants to come in and convert the vouchers and really shake up the whole establishment, and she's getting widely attacked for daring to talk about taking on the Darth Vader of the education system, which is the teachers' unions. And for the first time in maybe ever, we have a secretary that's coming in that is going to stand for parents and kids and not the union bosses at the NEA.
We're in complete agreement with Betsy DeVos. She's tremendous, and so that's a great pick. But I want to go back to Wilbur Ross because my concern is you're going to, if Trump is going to say to these cabinet secretaries, hey, go do your job and kind of release them to do what they're supposed to do in terms of implementation of policy, then Wilbur Ross's disposition seems to be, I like Solyndra type venture capitalism at the hands of the government. I like profiteering through public policy using rent-seeking behavior, essentially like you did in the steel industry and the coal industry, for that matter, the energy sector, which you write about so persuasively. So I mean. Do you have? I mean, is there a reason to explore these things with Wilbur Ross and potentially say maybe Todd Ricketts should be the Commerce Secretary and not Wilbur Ross?
Look, has he had his hearing yet? I don't even know.
No,
I think
today.
Yeah, but look, those are all legitimate questions, and I'd like to hear the answers to those too. I like Wilbur Ross a lot personally, so I'm not going to attack him on your show. But you're raising some very legitimate points, and we are free marketeers. We believe that the best path to prosperity is free market economics, not the government picking winners and losers, and I'll leave it at that.
All right, Health and Human Secretary nominee Tom Price, just talking about his stock. He bought stock in a company. Now, then filed a bill that helped that company. He said that he is an excellent stockbroker. Is it just by chance, Or is
Now,
this a
who
little
is this
bit?
you're talking about?
Tom Price, Congressman Tom Price.
Oh, look, I've known Tom Price for a long time. He's a great, you want to talk about a free market guy.
Yeah.
It's Tom Price. I do not think he abused his position. I think that this is something that's been trumped up against him. But look, I mean, the reason we have these hearings is to get to the bottom of these things. And if there was a conflict of interest, then he should be held accountable. But the reason that you're seeing an aggressive campaign against Tom Price is because he's trying to dismantle Obamacare, and the left is doing everything they can to discredit anyone who is against Obamacare. And by the way, we're seeing that another hearing that's going to be held today, guys, is the EPA director,
Right.
Scott Pruitt. Now, Scott Pruitt was a fantastic attorney general in Oklahoma. In Oklahoma, they increased their energy and oil and gas output, even as they reduce their carbon emissions and even as they reduce their pollutants. That's a great story. You can have a clean environment with more, economic production. That's what we want, a good balance between the economy and the ecology. They've done that in Oklahoma while he was Attorney General, and they're acting as if he's some kind of polluter who wants to destroy the planet.
Now, I just want to correct. I agree with most everything you said. Just one correction. The reason we have these hearings is not to get to the bottom of anything. It's for senators to grandstand. That's the purpose of the hearing. It's for senators to grandstand. That's the purpose of the hearings.
Well, that's true. That is absolutely true.
Speaking of Tom Price and Obamacare, this CBO report yesterday that 18 million people could lose their health insurance if you repeal Obamacare, and it could double premiums. Of course, this is the same CBO that got all of the projections about Obamacare wildly wrong, from Medicaid expansion costs to the number of people who would enroll in the individual market and so forth. And, of course, what CBO does is assume no replacement.
Of course they do. I mean, that was an absurd report. A shame on the CBO for putting it out there. Yes, of course, look, Obama put I forget the exact number, but well over 10 million people, more people into Medicaid. I think the number is about 18 million. There's about an 18 million increase in the number of people on Medicaid. So all he did was put 18 million people on a welfare program. Now, if you're going to restrict that, obviously those people would lose their benefits. But what we're talking about is basically coming up with a new system that provides care and coverage for people, but also lowers the cost. Now, I would simply, submit this to your audience. If you make health insurance cheaper, guess what? More people can afford it. And if more people can afford it, they're going to buy it. And more people are going to be covered, not less. There's no reason we can't cover just about everybody in this country. And I believe, and I think Tom Price agrees with this, we can reduce the premiums that people are paying for their health insurance by about 30%. If you do that, you're going to have more coverage, and people are going to have more money for other things. And look, the reason that I think a primary reason that Hillary Clinton lost this election was that the numbers that came out 2 weeks before the election saying that across the country, on average, premiums going up by 20%. And people can't afford that anymore.
So when is this transition going to take place? Because a lot of people, there's growing concern that they're going to be without health care coverage. And I understand that, because if you were in the same situation as them, you'd be concerned too.
Yeah, now, Amy, it's a great point, and I want to make this very clear. First of all, I do think Republicans not dealt with this issue very well at all. I'm very worried about it because Republicans don't know how to talk about health care. I mean, look, this problem of our healthcare system and the out-of-control costs, it didn't begin with Barack Obama. I mean, let's be fair. This has been a problem for 30 years. The healthcare costs have been exploding, way faster than the overall inflation rate. Now, the way to do this, the Republicans are making it way too complicated. You do two or three things and you solve 80% of the problem. You get rid of what's called the mandated benefit program under Obamacare, which says that anybody buys insurance in the United States has to be covered by about 30, services. That makes everybody's health insurance more expensive because it means you can't buy a cut rate plan. Number two, you get rid of all the Obamacare taxes, which is reduced investment in health care and reduced investment overall in the economy. Number three, you get rid of the 50-worker rule. You guys know that. We've talked about it, that if you have more than 50 workers, you got to cover everybody with Obamacare. Get rid of that rule. Let's have, small employers hire more workers. And number four, you let people buy insurance across state lines so that you have more competition. Did you know today as many as 1 in 3 counties in the United States only have one health insurance provider? That's not competition. If there's only one, there's no competition at all.
I want to get to this because this is something that you've opined on. You had a piece in the Washington Times about a week ago on the topic. Donald Trump has sort of downplayed his support for this border replacement tax idea. He's calling it too complicated. Make the case for this border replacement tax, this border adjustment tax, as opposed to kind of the straightaway tariffs that Trump seems to be fancy.
So,
seems to
that's an
fancy.
amazing issue. So, it's an issue, where, my good friends Steve Forbes and Larry Kudlow are against me on this, and Arthur Lafferty Smith is with me on this. So it even divides people on our side of the aisle who are fiscal conservatives. So I know we're running out of time, so I'll just say this very, very concisely. I believe what we should do in our business taxes, I think we have the dumbest business tax in the whole world. That's why we're losing jobs. What we do in America is we tax what we produce here at home, but we don't tax what's imported into the country. And that skews the table, in my opinion, to having more stuff produced in China and Mexico and India and other countries and bring them into the United States because you pay less tax than if it's made here. Why don't we do what every other country does and move from, instead of taxing where things are produced, tax it where it's consumed? And if you do that, you're actually going to be taxing the imports when they come into the United States. It's going to be a big boom to the Midwestern states that actually make manufactured goods and so on, because now if some kind of manufactured item like a car comes in from Mexico, it's going to be taxed at 15%. If it's made here in the United States and exported to, say, Mexico, China, there's no tax imposed on it. This is going to dramatically increase production. The problem is, you know who hates this idea the most, Dan and Amy?
Service sector?
What industry?
Service sector?
The retailers.
Yeah, right,
the
exactly.
retailers hate it. Look, if you're Walmart, what do you sell? Where are the goods that you're producing made?
China, India, etc. Right.
Bangladesh.
So so they don't want to have this extra tax. So it will look. If this tax would mean if you buy stuff from China, you're going to pay a little bit more for it. If you buy stuff made in the U.S. of A., you're going to pay a little less. Now, people will say, my friend Larry Kudlow and others will say, well, this is going to cause a trade war. Countries are going to retaliate against us. And my argument is they already do this. Every other country in the world has a value-added tax. We have a free trade agreement with these countries, but as soon as we sell something into their country, they slap it with a 15 or 20% value-added tax, which is like a tariff. So I'm saying, why did we let them do that to us and we don't do it to them?
All right, you've done a nice job.
Did
I feel like
persuade you? Dan,
no,
did I persuade you?
No, I'm not.
I just wanted to ask him what he's going to wear to the inaugural ball.
A ball gown, I assume.
Walmart, right?
Look, you've done a nice job. This is like a confirmation hearing. I've used all my time, so now I can't respond. But we're going to pick up this conversation because I understand what you're saying, but I'm in the Kudlow camp, not the Laugh for More camp, and I rarely say that, but I've got to be honest. Steve Moore.
We got to work on the persuasiveness. See you guys.
Steve Moore, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Consult your tax professional.